hunting monsters on and off duty. The Blueline Bowhunters podcast starts right now.
And welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Blueline Bowhunters podcast. Great guest today, Jared.
How do we keep getting better? You know what I mean?
Donnie Vincent, Jim Shockey, Melissa Bachman. We're heading towards the top of the cliff, and we're going to fall off here.
And then we might have just done that.
Yeah, I don't know what we do. I don't know where we go from here.
It kind of looks like. Do you remember The Price is Right? The yodeler that keeps on yodeling. We're just yodeling towards the top right now, and eventually we're going to fall off.
Oh, that's not true.
The other side.
That's funny.
Melissa Bachman here with us with Jared Bruner, Matt Steele. No one cares about us, but.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I sure appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thanks
much
for coming on.
This is amazing. We got to meet you real quick at ATA, and you've been burning some miles here lately.
I have, yes. I've been putting on a few frequent flyer miles lately.
Yeah, I would say so. Hopefully you have a great card that you can keep earning points for. But ATA show, SHOT show, SCI show, and now the Great American Outdoor Show, also known as Gauss, which sounds like a fungus. But
we just heard that the other day, yeah.
It's like, I don't think Gauss sounds great, but
sounds like a fungus.
Sounds bad. But just you are like one of the hardest working, not woman, but people in the outdoor industry. And that's what I've always appreciated about you is just your work ethic, because you don't get that nowadays.
No, and I didn't have an easy route to get where I wanted to go. So I didn't feel like I was necessarily a better hunter than anybody else or anything, but I knew that I could work harder than everybody, that I would not quit. And my goal was to just use that to my advantage, really get out there and whatever I'm doing, give it my 110%, give them everything I have. And in the beginning, I wasn't that good at what I was doing, right? Like I was an editor. I did the very best I could, but at the time it might have been mediocre work, but people appreciated that work ethic. And I think that's what kind of helped me get to the career what I really wanted.
They saw that you were going to do this, whether they said yes or no.
Right.
And you just, I saw on your Instagram that when you graduated college, you got 74 no's.
Yes, that is
that
right.
Correct?
I sent out 74 resume reels. Now,
That's
mind
hard
you,
to believe.
I was an honor student. I graduated with honors. I mean, I really thought I was going to just kill it, right? And I applied to all these places, and to get 74 no's and to be like, well, that's not what I had in mind.
They always say, like, the faster you get your no's, it's the faster you're going to get your first yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So in the salesman world, if you're selling yourself and something like that,
and that really is what you're doing is you're trying to. And at that point, I wasn't even trying to get on camera. Like a lot of people think that, well, yeah, I can see that trying to be on camera. No, that was just to be a video editor and producer.
That's incredible.
So I was really trying to start at basically the bottom level. And when I got all those no's, I went to the number one place I wanted to work, and I said, well, how about I just come and work for free? And they're like, well, what can you do? I'm like, oh, I can sweep the floors. I can stop.
I'll do whatever you
get your
want.
foot in the door.
Just let me get my foot in the door. And I did that, and I proved, how much I would work. And they very quickly saw that. And actually, 4 months later, I got hired for the original spot that I had applied for.
Good for you. Well, who's laughing now? That's
yeah,
what I
right. Yeah, exactly.
I think Melissa Bachman is.
Just kill them all with kindness.
Yep, absolutely. And you've always been such a kind, sweet soul in the outdoor industry. I mean, like, it still boggles my mind that you got 74 no's, but when you did do that 4 months, you were traveling quite a ways. Is that correct?
Yes. So they would, I was young. I wanted to travel all over. I wanted to be on the road as much as possible. So I would take every trip that was available. And how they had it is if I worked, I think it was, I don't remember how many, 30 days straight, I got like 5 off or something. They had it set up. And so when I got that time off, I would go and film my own hunt and try to put it all together and get an episode. And I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have any money really. So I was taking my little income. I bought a camera with it, trying to make a go with it. And then I would edit these shows together and wait till someone didn't get theirs done and give them mine for free.
Say here, you can slide this in if you want.
This one's all ready to go. And, that was the best way to really get into it, because if you think about it, when someone is on camera, they're not going to want to give up that spot, right? Like, that was their dream to get there, and I always knew that. So I just wanted to really work hard and just make it. I mean, honestly, I really used the motto of, like, guilting everybody into it, right? Like, I worked so hard that people almost felt bad for me, and they're like, gosh, we got to just throw this girl a bone.
That is wild. That is wild.
But when that girl starts shooting Boone and Crockett bucks, someone's got to take notice.
And, and you just hope that happens. And, my whole life I've just worked so hard. And even to this day, like, I feel like at any moment someone else is going to have more energy, younger, who's going to come in and work harder. So even now I put in the exact same amount of effort as I did then, just to make sure that you can kind of maintain. I mean, once you get what you've always wanted, then it's trying to keep that. And sometimes that can even be almost more of a challenge than getting it in the first place.
That fuels the fire mainly, because you always think that somebody younger or anybody is going to come in. Same with us, like if you get into photography, videography, there's always somebody that's going to have that fire that's initially starting to burn in them, and you're going to have to try to keep up with them. So that makes you
and you're more tired at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a constant grind. So yeah, that's wonderful though.
So I know you've kept a schedule where you're usually on the road about 300 days a year. Are you still keeping that schedule, or has that changed a little bit?
I've tried to scale that back. We have 5 kids at home. We have a little baby. 300
Congratulations,
days.
by the way.
300 days is too much. So what I've tried to do is just work a little smarter, not work harder.
Right.
So now, like when we do some bigger hunts, my husband's a game warden, and he will come along with me and kind of pick out some of his favorite stuff, and then I'll get 2 episodes because, like brown bear, we both go. He shot his brown bear at 4 yards with a bow and arrow. Was incredible, and then I shot mine. So during that same time, now I got 2 full episodes. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do on the working smarter. Plus our little boy Jax is just
I was just going to bring him up. Like, you have a rock star in the making. Are you afraid of the more energy and someone coming up to get you to be your own son?
I am just thrilled about it because, in fact, I would maybe pull him out of kindergarten next year and he can just take over the whole show.
Right, yep.
I think he can do it.
He's got to be the coolest dude.
I was just showing my wife yesterday when he's wearing that tux and he's like dabbing or whatever he's doing with the football. I'm like, man, this kid is a riot.
So he was supposed to be going to his Christmas concert, and he's like trying to get himself pumped up for the concert, and that's what he's doing. But like the kid is a natural born entertainer. And I told my parents, I said, Mom, I have never seen a kid like this. She goes, I have. You.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I was watching him whenever you guys went to Sturgis, and he was having a hoot with all the bikers and stuff, and running around on his little Hot Wheel tricycle, doing burnouts.
It was like we had paparazzi around us. Like we had a crowd all around him, and he's doing wheelies, and he'd see girls, and he'd go, watch this. And
then he'd have his little tattoo shirt, like his shirt on. That he had.
And then we put like fake tattoos all up and on his neck and stuff. Yeah. But I actually got a lot of grief for it. A lot of people thought that we tatted our little 4-year-old.
Oh, God.
And I was like, you know what? He barely sat still to put the water on the back of the tattoos.
Right.
I don't think we're giving a mink at 4 years old, and much less from his neck all the way down.
Hey, that just means he's just tougher 4-year-old than their 4-year-old. That's all.
That I can promise you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yep. And then I know last year I just caught an episode recently where I think you were 8 months pregnant with Bella, and you were still coyote hunting. You're out there coyote hunting. I'm like, that's phenomenal. That's a great job.
My doctor was convinced we were going to have her in the field. And there were a couple times that I was pretty convinced that was probably going to happen.
Second guessing it,
yeah. We did some pretty far back in their coyote hunts towards the end. And even my cameraman's like, geez, we're not anywhere near a hospital.
Well, he was probably nervous he was going to end up doing
it. Yeah, I was like, is he trained?
Yeah. Like,
my husband's like, people used to deliver babies in the creeks all the time. You'll be fine.
Oh, boy. Yeah, that'd be too much for me.
No, thanks. Not on a coyote hunt. But we did a good job. We got through it. But actually the night before, we were lifting coyotes, and I have a picture where I'm holding 2 big coyotes, and I threw them in the bed of my truck, and my mom was not impressed. She said, Melissa, you should not be out there doing that right now.
Grandma's not happy.
No.
Yeah. That's funny.
No,
That's good stuff.
But good for you. And then, I mean, you had a fantastic year.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a little bit of, I was checking out your Instagram. There was this buck you shot at home.
Mm-hmm.
What was the name of the buck again?
So, well, I don't even know if we ever named him, but he had the goofy red one,
like a
right?
big curl.
So
on
we
it.
had watched this buck, and that we had bought a property 4 years ago in Illinois. That's kind of our home property, and then we got a lodge on it this year. But this buck, he always had this goofy little, like, we called him eye hook.
That's right.
My husband I didn't, but yeah, my husband called him eye hook. And so he had this little hook that came down. Then the next year, the hook got a little bigger. Well, this year it turned into like a whole cool beam, and you could just see the age on this buck. We knew he was pretty old, but we could never tell what was quite going on. Well, we were out there, and that's the one buck I wanted to shoot, and we decoyed him right in. And I could hardly even breathe because I'm like, this is the deer we want. We had never shot a deer on our own property there before. Got him, and we got down to the bottom, and that whole skull plate had cracked, and it was all loose.
Yeah,
and it was
right.
literally like his skin just holding it on.
Right.
It's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And, I'm not sure if it was always that loose. I think maybe after I shot him, maybe he crashed and, kind of knocked it loose again. My guess is maybe he got hit by a car when he was young. But every year you could see there was something going on. And I, did some filming, and it, grew underneath of it. It's crazy.
Huh. That is incredible. So you decoyed him in. Had you ever decoyed in a deer before that?
Yeah, I love decoying. That's my favorite thing to do. But I had never decoyed one in that broke his skull plate. I don't know what he was thinking.
I've never been successful doing that. I've taken decoys out before.
Matt has the property to do it.
Yeah, I've got some pretty nice property here in PA because we're not known as like a big buck state, but we're getting there. And I'm very fortunate where I live that I have bucks that I can hunt that are nice. They're not as nice as the ones you're killing. I mean, we get 140, 150 inch deer. That's a big
nice
deer.
buck. Yeah.
Right. So, but decoying, just for a beginner, what would be your advice?
So there's nothing that I love more than decoying, and there's probably nothing I've been more successful at.
We're talking to the expert now.
I've had trips where I've literally decoyed 35 to 40 different bucks.
Oh my God.
So and the thing is, a lot of the seminars I do at these places are about decoying and teaching people on kind of what to do. So the very first thing is obviously timing. Okay. You don't want to be just doing it at any random time. I usually will start using my decoy towards the end of October. But what's important is to watch how the deer are acting in your area. If you start seeing bucks that are kind of posturing and getting all puffed up to each other.
On the back of their neck.
I mean, the idea is when they're going to fight, they put all their hair on end, so they're trying to look as big and tough as possible. They also pin their ears back. So if you have a buck coming into your decoy, they'll get all bristled up, and then they start kind of sidestepping and their ears pinned back. So you want to be there during the right time. Now, I usually would quit about towards the end of November. But over the years, I've found that there's kind of a second rut that comes in with a lot of those little fawns coming into estrus. And we've used that decoy all the way till mid-December.
Wow.
No way.
And I have now they're not as aggressive mid-December. I've never had a buck actually hit my decoy mid-December, but I've still decoyed them in. And when you're late season hunting, especially maybe over a food source, you put that decoy out in your bow hunting. Now you can pull that deer right to where you want them to be. So that's helpful. The second thing is having a really good looking decoy. So I use a Dave Smith decoy, but there's all sorts of different decoys, and you want them to look good.
So Dave Smith decoy story. We were fortunate enough, Donnie Vincent invited us up to his place in Wisconsin. Our listeners are tired of hearing about this because we brag about it all the time.
That's
We're
hilarious.
like, we hunted with Donnie. But Donnie invited us up, and they have this turkey decoy called Whitey. And I'm like, okay, decoy's a decoy. Nope.
Wrong.
Nope. This Dave Smith decoy is
insane,
unbelievable. And I've seen the deer decoy. So, I mean, I think there's a lot to say for it because we put this decoy out there, and our listeners have heard this, unfortunately, but turkey hits the ground 500 yards away, sees this. They call it Whitey. They paint the head all white, and do you have one of these turkey decoys as I'm explaining it to you? You probably have 15 of them as I'm explaining to Melissa Bachman what this is.
Okay.
No, but they've worked incredible.
Oh, my gosh. I was like,
brought them right in.
Being a PA hunter where I've hunted the same turkey named Cornelius for 37 days, and he comes out and he looks and he sees my whatever flambeau decoys or whatever, and he's like, nope, see you later. We go over with Donnie 500 yards away. This turkey on a dead run,
like a rocket. Yep.
And then I shot him 13 minutes into my hunt. It was over. I'm like, done. But anyhow, so that decoy is
visually is very important. And what you want is, when you look at a buck and they're all bristled up, you want your decoy to look just like that. And you want your decoy's ears to be pinned back because a lot of them, they'll go out and their ears are forward. Well, anytime bucks are going to fight, their ears are never forward. If you're decoying and they go from back to forward, something alerted them, the gig's up. They got it figured out, right? Like something's not right. So that's important. And then it's also important to make sure to get your scent off of it, because what you don't want to do is you don't want to bring a deer in. They see it every time they're going to get downwind of it and smell you. Right. So I always spray it down. I use Scent Killer Gold, spray it all down. That way my scent isn't on it anymore. And then I'll take either like Golden Scrape or some sort of a scent, and I'll put it on the decoy's hawks. And then, excuse me.
Sorry.
And then sometimes.
No worries. We'll edit that out.
Okay. And then sometimes I'll actually take real hawks off a buck. Like if I kill a buck, cut those hawks off, and you put them in a plastic baggie, and you just grab them like you would picking up dog poop, right? So you don't ever touch them, and you drop them under it. Because what you're trying to do is you've got the visual. You've got them completely duped that this is real. Then you do a little rattling, grunting, a snort, wheeze. Now they heard something. Now they come in, they heard it, they saw it. Now they're going to get downwind. If they smell it, and you can get 3 out of 5 senses, you've got almost any buck.
Yep, they're like,
it's done. That's it. And so in my mind, I've always felt that if you can get 3 out of 5, you're going to have them. And I think that's really important. And then, it's not going to work every time. So I'd love to say that every time you go out decoying, you're going to bring big bucks in. You're just not. So you have to stick with it. But it can really work incredible. And it's also helpful if you ever miss a deer or mess something up, they don't leave.
Right.
I've had 3 bucks that I've got a second shot on because of that decoy. They're just so locked on it.
Right. That that's a real deer in front of them, that they hear something, but they're not spooked.
No.
That's incredible. Well, I can't wait for mid-October to get here now.
I know, right? Because it gives you something to work towards there. Because we just had this discussion about rattling deer in Pennsylvania. It's not like Ohio or Illinois where like it tends to work 50 or 75% of the time. PA, you might be lucky to get 1% of the time to come into a rattle.
1% of the time it works all the time.
Yeah, one works all the time.
So.
Yep. Yeah, but it's harder in Pennsylvania than most other states for rattling, but decoying, I think that's definitely
and I think you also want to do things that maybe other people aren't doing there, right? So you're trying something new. And again, I mean, you are doing this during their most vulnerable time, when these bucks are cruising for does and they're like, hey, this is my area, and you're after that dominant buck, right? So he's like, this is my area. What is this other buck doing posturing in my area? I was actually on a hunt once, and I had forgot my decoy, so I just went and bought like a Glendale buck, right, and set him up. I'm like, I'm sure it'll be fine. It was not. Nobody cared.
Yeah, nobody cared.
All the deer saw him. Nobody cared, and the reason is because his ears weren't pinned back, his hair wasn't bristled up. They saw him. It's just a buck. Yeah. But a buck standing there posturing, whole different deal.
Huh.
Wow.
So that kind of shows
Thank you for coming on our show.
Dave Smith, if you're listening to this right now,
we love your decoys a lot. But, so thank you for explaining that. That was like the best tutorial ever. I'm glad that you teach seminars. You're very good at it. But what do you have coming up this year? What big hunts do you have planned?
So one hunt I'm really excited about, we're going to the Yukon for moose again. And this will be our 3rd trip with, we hunt with Yukon Big Game Outfitters. Dave Marsters is he's probably one of my favorite people I've ever hunted with. And he told me he's thinking about retiring this year. And so if he does, we're his last hunters, but I'm pretty sure I can convince him not to retire yet because my goal is to win the lottery and buy that.
Yeah.
And I don't have that winning lottery ticket yet, so he can't retire yet.
You got to hold on.
Yeah. But it is it really is one of my favorite hunts that you could ever do because you're out in the middle of the wilderness. My husband and I go, and it's unbelievable. You have the northern lights at night. We have this cool little cabin to stay in. You see so many moose, and these moose never see people. So you give them a couple calls, you use the paddles, and the next thing they're in your lap. You know, my last one I shot at 18 yards.
Wow. I saw one of those hunts when you filmed up there, and it was a pretty wild ride. It was a rifle hunt. I don't know if you ever shot one with a bow or not, but it was a rifle.
I've done 2 rifles. This one will be a bow this year.
Oh, get out!
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty exciting. What if you had your choice between gun and bow, which one are you choosing?
I can't answer that.
That's funny.
No, here's my thing is I love to hunt. So there's ways to extend your season. Archery I get to do early in the year, and then I do lots of rifle hunts, and then I do muzzleloader, and I do whatever I can to be out there hunting. Because as a kid, my goal was always to hunt as many days as possible. So I always really enjoyed that. But to me, it's just being out there. And even when I'm gun hunting, I'm personally not someone who takes those big bar shots. I don't take long shots. I like to get close to animals. I love trying to get in as close as possible, like that moose. It's 18 yards with a rifle. But that just, to me, it's just that's what I enjoy, so that's what I try to do.
That's TJ 10 yards is woman. He was our caller up in Wisconsin, and he said they call him TJ 10 yards because he likes to get the birds into at least 10 yards before somebody takes them out.
Yeah, and it's fun, and I don't have any problem with any which way people want to do it. It's just for me, if I'm at 300 yards, I'm like, let's get to 30.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
And to me, do I blow some things from time to time because of that? Absolutely. But do I get phenomenal footage sometimes and heart-pounding experiences?
Better story out of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm right there with you.
Are you going in during the rut, like mid-September-ish?
Yes. So we go towards the end of September. So we actually take that latest season. And so sometimes it can get really, really cold and snowy, but it's my favorite time because those big bulls come down and are looking for the cows. And in my opinion, that's when you can get those really, really big bulls.
Yeah, like 70-inch bulls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've seen one on every trip. We have not killed one yet. Mine, I don't remember what mine was. It was big. It was over 65 inches, so it was pretty good.
It's pretty good. It was okay.
Yeah, that's pretty massive.
It's bigger
I don't
than
know if I'll ever top that, but
no, I mean that's still an incredible bull. Are you planning on lots of like elk hunts, whitetail hunts this year?
Yeah, it kind of depends what I draw, because I'm just like everybody else where I put in all my tags and then it kind of see what we get, and where I sit. I love doing elk hunts. I'm hoping I can get at least an elk hunt. I always do tons of whitetail hunts just because I grew up with whitetails. I love whitetails. They're my favorite. Yeah. So they're always, and they're easier to get the tags.
Would you say whitetail is your favorite for the lower 48?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if someone says you can shoot a boot and crockett of any animal, what would you pick? I'd pick a whitetail every time. Because as a little girl, I dreamed of shooting those big bucks. I didn't really dream of shooting moose, not that I don't love it, but to me, the whitetail, it's just so hard to get those really big animals. And
they're just so cunning and smart. Mm-hmm. But what if I told you a year from now you could never hunt again, but you could pick any hunt to do? What would you pick? I
would probably pick to go do a brown bear again. But my goal is to go on a brown bear hunt with my bow and call them in with a predator call. I've done it with black bear numerous times. It works unbelievable.
Really? I've heard of people doing that.
I've
always wondered about it.
I think I've called 3 or 4 in, and they come in straight at you, and I've shot them right in the throat with my bow as they come in, and I would love to do that on a brown bear hunt. So that would be it. Now, brown bear hunts, we did one 2 years ago. They are the hardest physically and mentally of any hunt I've ever done. But it's all worth it when it all comes together.
When you say physically and mentally, why is that?
Well, where we hunted on Kodiak Island, so they don't allow you to land except for on water or sand. So if you want to access areas where nobody else gets in, there's a reason. Yeah. Because you walk so much and you have so much gear on your back, and the weather is brutal.
Relentless.
Kodiak is just all over the board. So you really have to be tough. And physically, it was definitely one of the most challenging hunts I've ever done. Probably because my backpack weighed way too much.
Yeah.
Next time, I'm just going to hire a parachuter. I'm going to jump on his back.
And
I'm going to just bail out of that
right
plane.
in there.
Drop you off at the top and walk down.
I'm just bailing out, and I'll meet everybody when you get there. But I did think about that a lot on the walk-in.
I'm sure you did. It seems like the show's starting to close down here. I just have a couple more questions for you. So you went from this time where you couldn't get a job to now you've become like this marketing genius.
I don't know about that.
But just someone who I think it's just you're so likable that all these companies seem to want to work with you. And it seems like anything that there is related to hunting, you can find you at it. What do you think has caused that?
I think, I've always been a firm believer it's all about relationships. And I always will go the extra mile to make sure that I've always, do over and above. If I tell you I'm going to do something, I'm not only going to do that, but I'm going to try to do it to the very best of my ability and over deliver on it. And I think people appreciate that. I think we kind of live in a world where people don't always do what they say they're going to do.
Oh, that's for sure.
So I think when you can do that, and then also just being loyal. I mean, I think loyalty goes a long way, and doing things that you really believe in. There's been people and products who have come up to me, and I'm like, just not my thing. Like that's not something I'd really use. So I think when you're authentic, people can see that, and you're really enjoying it. I'm not just shooting a buck to get an episode. I own deadly passion, right? So no one's telling me what I have to do. So I think everything you see, the more authentic and the more real people can be, the more likable you're going to be, and people feel like they really know you, and what you see is what you get.
Yeah, there's no fluff with it.
No.
Yep, that's good.
And I mean, you come across super authentic through your show and through your ads, and I believe you whenever you're telling me that, like, hey, this product's good, I use it, and I enjoy using it. You come across that way, and I feel like a lot of the people in this outdoor industry, I mean, there's some bad ones, just like we hear all the time about cops, Are there some bad cops? Are there some bad game wardens?
Absolutely.
They're out there just like everything
They're out
else.
there, but I think for the most part,
people are good.
Yeah.
People are good, yeah. And that's kind of the whole point of Jared and I with the Blueline Bowhunters is just showing, like, hey, the outdoor industry, there's good people. We're doing this for a good reason. Just like police work, like, there's good people. We're there to help people.
We'd like to be just a light in a dark tunnel, half the time when outsiders that are looking in, something hunting and law enforcement in general.
And I appreciate that so much because our little boy, he wants to be a cop. Right?
no
So,
way.
for Halloween, he dresses up as a cop.
Oh, that's
I get
awesome.
pulled over for a speeding ticket. He tells him he wants to be a cop.
That's
Thanks,
awesome.
bud.
Perfect.
That's hilarious.
But, I think that's so important, though, because you want kids to try to, be like that and to have goals and whatever it may be. I don't care what he wants to be, but I want to have positive, role models for him to look up to as well and know that that's a positive thing. There's nothing negative to be associated with it.
Oh.
And talking about role models, you just had a young daughter, and Matt has 2 young daughters.
That was my last question. Yeah.
I didn't even read in your mind here.
No, that was my last question. Is I have 2 little girls. One, and I brought it up on the podcast before. My wife was a pageant queen. Was a Miss Pennsylvania, and
Very cool.
I know I outkicked my coverage there.
Yeah.
I told a good joke when I first met her, and I locked it in. But so my oldest daughter is like, she cares for things. She's very caring, loving. My youngest daughter, she sees a ladybug, she'll squish it and smile at me and like give me a wink. I'm like, there's my hunter.
Yeah.
What is the advice you would give for parents like myself, bringing up a young girl into hunting?
Well, I think the very most important thing is to always make it fun. I think people, management's nice, big bucks, people love all that. Kids don't care. Okay.
Right.
Kids are there to have fun and to have dad be impressed with what they do. That's all that matters. So I think people need to remember that you just have to make it fun, bring lots of snacks, maybe go for short periods of time, right? Take her out when it's going to be nice. Take her on a turkey hunt first when it's going to be nice and get her out there, and never push kids to hunt or to shoot before they're ready.
Right.
So what I always tell people is to bring a camera with and wait until they say, can I shoot them? I don't want to just take pictures. Then they're ready, because the worst thing you can do is push a kid to do it because they know you want them to, and then they won't actually do it when they get older. I mean, we're trying to make lifelong hunters, not hunters just while they live in your home.
Right.
So I think that's really important, and letting them have role models, letting them watch girls on TV and girls on YouTube or wherever it may be, so that they know that's totally normal, because my mom hunted, my grandma hunted. So
Right.
to me, I didn't have any idea that most women didn't hunt. So
Right.
I think that's important as well, is to always have that as part of it. So, they have fun. They're spending time with you. I don't tell people to just tell them no electronics, because I never want it like a punishment,
Right.
but make it so much fun that they don't even care about their phone.
Exactly. Yep.
Give them the turkey call. And you know what? They hit that box call. I don't care if it's 2 hours later, big old Tom comes in, you called it in, right? So just give them that interaction, answer their questions, and make it fun. And those are memories you'll love forever.
That's perfect.
I love that advice. Thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you guys having me, and thank you guys for everything you do.
Absolutely.
We don't want to feel like you're kicking you out, but I think they're kicking us out.
Yeah, I'm looking around and I see cops. I mean, like, hey, we're cops too. Don't get rid of us.
Yeah, we're going to pull our badges out here and be like, it's okay.
We're friends.
Yeah.
So, where can people find you at, Melissa?
If you just go to melissabachman.com, you can find most things there, or you can find me on Sportsman's channel. I think it's on 5 days a week. Catch the show, Winchester Deadly Passion, anytime there.
So awesome. Special thanks to the Brio booth, Smokeless Fire Pits. They were cool enough to let us use this, and it was awesome. And you had your last appearance. You're going to be here the rest of the week at the outdoor show.
The DSG booth.
Yeah, the DSG booth. I was like, let's just try and get it close so you don't have to run clear across.
That's perfect.
Yeah, it worked out great. Thank you so much, Brio. Jared actually met a woman here that he helped back in November along the side of the road.
Yeah,
Small
it was
world.
wild.
Wow.
It was wild, yeah.
Yeah,
right before Thanksgiving, I was pulled off on the side of the road, either running radar or I just just cleared a traffic stop, and my lights were off. I'm just sitting there clearing the stop out, and this vehicle pulls in front of me. Puts their flashes on, and I'm like, here we go. What do we got? You know.
Yeah.
But you always got to keep your cool, and you don't know what you're walking up on. I go up and talk to her, and she was just coming from, I think a family member was just in a crash. She was coming from Pittsburgh at the hospital, seeing them, and then she was going back towards Lancaster, and she's like, I'm nearly out of gas. Where's the nearest gas station? And I directed her up, a couple miles ahead to the nearest rest stop. And turns out I come here to ask permission to film this podcast, and she's telling me this story about, because we'd introduced ourselves, and we're like, yeah, we're both state troopers out of PA here. This is what we do. Gave her a little flyer. She's like, she's telling me the story. I'm like,
that was me.
I was like, why does that sound?
I could see his face.
She's like, yeah, my brother so-and-so was just at a hospital for a bike crash or something. I'm like, it can't be anybody else. I'm like, that was me. And she's like, I knew you looked familiar. Yeah, right. What a small, I'm like,
small world.
Yeah, you never know.
Like, what are the chances that you say yes and we book this time and we come here?
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
Wow.
Pretty awesome. But
thank you very much, though.
Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week, and safe travels. Best of luck hunting this year, and best of luck keeping Jax under control.
I will.
You have to bring him
best.
next time. We're gonna have him on the podcast.
Hey, you want to take it up a notch? You bring Jax.
That's
the
right.
questions you could ask him and the answers you get, you've never seen anything like it.
That's awesome.
Sure. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us on the Blueline Bowhunters podcast. Melissa, real pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you guys for having me.
Thank you.
Check out the Blueline Bowhunters on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or their website, www.bluelinebowhunters.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, watch your six.